Hello, you're listening to Covid-tinted Glasses with Georgina. I'll be speaking to people from all around the world about their unique experiences of the pandemic, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the downright ugly, covering topics like friendship, family, travel, work, mental health and finding love. If you'd like to join me for a chat, then get in touch at georgina_podcast@outlook.com. This episode's guest is speaking from London. Well, there we have it, our uplifting introduction. So welcome to Covid-tinted Glasses. I'm Georgina and I'm chatting to Amanda Thorpe, recording artist and music therapist and friend. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for being the guinea pig, let's say, of this new podcast.
I think I may just remove the COVID tinted glasses just so I can see what's going on a little easier, if that's okay.
Yes, I think that's very important because we need to see the real deal now, don't we? We need to see what's going to happen in the future. So how are you?
I feel remarkably lucky and unscathed by the whole COVID experience, actually. I mean, it's very present and very real, but, in terms of the challenges that I know lots of people have faced, as I say, I feel quite blessed.
That's good. And why do you think that's been the case for you?
Well, I've worked throughout, which I think in some ways is actually, it's that mixed blessing, isn't it? It's like you don't want to be out there on the front line working because you might catch it, but at the same time, if you're stuck in lockdown, then it's a totally different reality. So, I've been going to work, I've been working with people, I've been interacting with people. My parents are my bubble, and so unlike my sister, I've actually seen my parents in the past year, which, again, makes a huge difference. And, even though I had a test which said I had antibodies, I wasn't even aware that I had COVID. So again, it's sort of, I feel lucky that I did not have the symptoms. I've had other people, I've known two people that have died from it, which it was quite a surprise, and that was very early on. They were both in New York, and I've had other people I know who have had it badly, but as I say, nothing, not in my immediate family.
Your job is often you're working in hospitals, aren't you? So didn't that make you a bit scared, or were you more confident because you had more knowledge about the disease?
I suppose it's a bit more scary going out into the regular environment where I suppose people are a little more unpredictable in what you're dealing with, whereas in the hospital there are so many controls in place about the clothing you wear, the protocol for washing, the PPE that we have, etc. So it's really I sort of feel safe once I'm there. I did stop using public transportation, and I have been cycling everywhere, which is great. But again, it was trying to sort of limit the variables of the people out in the community as opposed to the hospital.
Yeah, and I did see a fantastic picture of you wearing the most amazing I wanted to say smock, but that's not the right word. Scrubs.
Yes, I those were the first, that was the first day that I was back on site. And I was given the aqua scrubs, and I must say all my clients really did quite take to the aqua scrubs. So
yeah, it looked fantastic. And so you were saying that you're now biking a lot everywhere. And what have you started any new habits that you're going to continue doing in the future?
I certainly think I'll continue cycling. I don't think I have any interest in sitting on a tube or a subway if I don't have to. Other habits, gosh, what other habits? I actually went on the first diet that ever actually worked, and I managed to lose a little bit of weight, and I've also been a little more rigorous with my exercise. I bought myself one of those individual trampolines, you know, the one person trampoline.
Wow.
So I've been enjoying jumping up and down on that a lot, you know.
So that's biking, exercise, you know, you've lost a bit of weight, things like that. So you're going to carry on trying to keeping these habits going?
Yes, absolutely. Those are good habits to keep, I think.
Good habits, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's happened in the rest of your work? Because obviously you're a music therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and I was reading your Christmas email, and you said quite rightly that it's mainly charitably funded. Has that had an impact on your work?
Well, certainly in one of the places that I work, because they haven't been able to do the fundraising activities that they normally do, they have, you know, a big gap in their funding that then needs to be spread across a lot of different things. So that work has decreased, which is very sad, because you know everybody seems to really value it when you're doing it, but when it comes down to, you know, how's it going to be funded, then you know it's always fighting against other things. So yes, there's that, and then the other the other hospital that I work has continued to do some fundraising efforts. Again, it's, you know, a bit more precarious, but they also get different types of streams of funding. So, you know, we're making it work, and where, you know, one place disappears, then another place, luckily or unluckily, again, it's another one of those double-edged swords. You know, it's unfortunate if somebody's in a state where, or a situation where they need music therapy, but at the same time, it's really great if they can access it and
Yeah.
benefit from it.
Yeah, that must be really hard. But it sounds like one door's closing and another one's opening. So
Mm-hmm.
things are moving along really well. So I have one question for you. So what's the one thing you have missed the most?
People, but touch was actually something I was thinking about the other day. I was thinking I really miss touching people. I mean, not in a weird, pervy kind of way, but you know, just you know, I like to hug my friends. I like to hug my parents. I like to, you know, just, you know, tactile sort of, you know, holding hands with somebody. You know, I've worked with quite a lot of elderly clients, and that holding of their hands is something that's so important to them. And, you know, they get a lot of comfort out of that touch. And of course, that you're not being able to do that. You know, you're sort of far, far away from people,
Yeah.
and keeping your distance. And
Do
so
you find yourself jumping back 2 meters? I do.
no, I'm not. I could be more cautious, I suppose, than I am, but I keep my distance. I
Yeah.
keep my hands clean. I try and keep myself sane, but I try not to go sort of
Too
crazy
far.
at the same time.
So during lockdown, what was the one thing you noticed about London? Because obviously things changed very dramatically pretty quickly around about this time a year ago. So
Mhm. I mean, immediately when lockdown happened, I did stay home. I have my son, as you know, and because of the schools closing down, it took a bit of time to sort out the key worker support. So we literally stayed home for, you know, possibly a month before we got him back into school, and I got back into the hospital. Um,
how
what
did
I
you stay
noticed,
sane during that month? How did you manage? Was there anything
well,
you did?
we didn't really. It was a bit difficult. It was very hard for him, particularly. Um, but you know, we found a way through it, so that's good. Um, I don't really know. It's
Didn't you do
getting.
those music things you sang a music?
That's very true. Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
How could I have forgotten? Yes, that was one thing that I did manage to enforce for a
Yeah.
reasonable length of time. We did a song a night for a while where we
That was amazing. I mean, I really loved it. Yeah.
tried to get him back into the habit because, you know, since we've had another lockdown, like, okay, well, let's do some more singing. And so we've done one song. He's getting a bit more picky in terms of like, he doesn't like my selection as much as he used to. So he's being a bit more fussy about what he'll actually participate in. But that certainly, you know, it gave us a goal and a focus and something to do. I think that the routine of, you know, getting up and going out was really important, especially for me because he was refusing to go out at one point. But I would go walk around the block just to sort of clear my head. And I spent an awful lot of time in the garden, again, trying to lure him down into the garden. Um,
Did
you
you
know,
have any successes in the garden that you haven't had before?
yeah, I grew some tomatoes, which was very
Woo!
exciting. And what else did I grow? My sunflower died. I had radishes. That was very exciting. And I did some sort of digging and sort of laying stones, you know, to sort of make it aesthetically pretty.
Yeah.
And ripped up a load of ivy and then shredded it. So I had like loads and loads of sort of long, what do you call them? The
Vines or something.
vines, yeah. So lots
Yeah.
and lots of vines, and then I got Spencer to make some. You know, we made some stars out of the vines.
Oh, I saw those. Yeah.
I made an angel out of vines, dressed her up with fairy lights, and so we had a glowing angel every night. You know, it's lovely.
Oh, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was that was one of the more sort of satisfying garden activities that
Yeah.
I did.
And when you did go out with Spencer, did you find, was it quiet out or how did you find it?
Well, I was going to say the roads were an absolute dream. You know,
Mm.
cycling to work was so nice. You know, there were no cars. I mean, a few cars, and I got Spencer to cycle as well. So he started cycling. We would cycle up to his school, and then I would cycle on to work. And you know, you sort of actually felt safe cycling as opposed to sort of taking your life in your own hands,
Yeah.
which is what you generally feel like when you're cycling in London. And it was very noticeable when the traffic suddenly started to increase again. It was like, oh my gosh, you know, where have all these cars come from? And the lorries, you know, you sort of forget how big those lorries are, and then they're sort of suddenly hurtling past you again, and it's but that was wonderful, not having the airplanes overhead,
Yeah.
being able to hear the birds sing, being able to cycle down the road. Um, you know, I really, really appreciated and valued that time outside, and it, you know, felt very, very lucky that it was actually March, April, when everything was just starting to come to life in the gardens and sort of nature wise. So there was I think the winter was really hard because you just didn't have the same access to going out, and you know the weather wasn't as nice, it wasn't as warm, and you know, so it was just harder, I think, overall.
And maybe because we've been doing it for so long as well.
Mm, that too, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
The grind, it just it's carrying on and on. I mean, it's still ongoing now.
Yeah.
Um, so you've talked a bit about kind of music with Spencer,
Mhm.
and obviously we did together
Mhm.
Bushwick. I can't speak.
Book club.
Bushwick Book Club. So we did Bushwick Book Club together, and obviously there was one that you did just as lockdown kind of came off, and that was all online with Susan Wang in New York. And did that
The
work out
first
well?
one, actually, the very first one that I did, which was scheduled to be in a venue, and then of course the venues were all shut. I attempted to do it myself, and you know, I was not a happy camper trying to host, trying to coordinate, people trying to show video, it was not fun at all. But then Susan, who is the actual founder of Bushwick Book Club in New York, she got all over the sort of live streaming, Facebook interconnected with Zoom and the green room, and then the sort of screen. So she, invited me to participate in one of the New York ones, which I leapt at the opportunity because that meant I could carry on participating actively in the book club and performing, which I always enjoy. And the other thing I was going to say, COVID has suddenly made my sort of relationships with New York feel so much closer. It's been, the majority of my really close friends, having lived there for so long, are based in New York. And when I moved back to England, it's been harder to obviously stay in touch with them. And then you suddenly realize, well, it's actually not that hard to stay in touch with them because, with the advent of Zoom and FaceTime, and that's the way that people communicate. I'm speaking far more regularly to my New York friends than I was before, and obviously doing the shows, doing the Bushwick Book Club, I get to see the sort of wider circle of friends in the shows and performances that we put together, which is really nice. So,
and we should explain what the Bushwick Book Club is. So do you want to give a little intro?
It is a book club, sort of variety act show. We select a book, and then we get a group of performers and artists, and chefs and poets and whoever else, to read the book and then respond to the book with a creative expression. So it's either I write a song in response to the book, I write a poem in response to the book. I come up with I think you baked a cake based on Truman Capote's Christmas memory special fruit cake that his auntie would always bake. So, we try and, leave it up to the artist to come up with whatever it is they want to do in response to the book. But we then come together and have a show that, even if you've not read the book, you can come along to the show and have a thoroughly good time and enjoy it. And
I've been blown away by the songs and the poems that people have written in responses to the books of the Bushwick Book Clubs that I've been to. They're really, really amazing. So yeah, long may it continue.
I love it. It's really, and it has been a lifesaver because I sort of stopped writing songs and stopped performing for a few years. And Susan was visiting England, and she basically said, I'm going to put the show on and you're coming and you're going to be in it. And I was like, okay. And then you came to that very show.
I did, yes.
I then enlisted you to help with it, which was fabulous because it's really, as I say, it was a bit of a lifesaver for me, sort of re-engaging me with the sort of performing and writing process again. And we actually have a very, very interesting book for June, Mr. Humble and Dr. Butcher. It's a horrifyingly gruesome story about the first brain transplant. It's a true story. Dr. White in America, a neurosurgeon, literally his whole work was transplanting the brain. He was hoping that he would actually find a way to transplant human consciousness. He didn't get that far. But he certainly put many years and many tests and experiments and research into that. And the book is beautifully written. You just sort of get carried away with the story, and you sort of almost forget the sort of subject matter, which is quite hard, but
yeah,
very, very interestingly written. Anyway, we're going to do that in June. So if anybody wants to come join us, then please do.
Yeah, so they can look on Facebook for Bushwick Book Club
New York, is it, or just Bushwick Book
Well, we're
Club?
doing it as a joint thing, so it'll be Bushwick Book Club London and Bushwick Book Club New York. So
Perfect. But more importantly, Amanda, what about your own music? What's been happening
well,
with that?
yeah, well, as I say, I have actually started writing again due to Bushwick Book Club, and I've been sitting. It's a bit embarrassing, actually. You know, I've been sitting on this recording that I finished maybe, don't even say, 3 years ago, and just sort of been a little over distracted and overstretched with everything that I hadn't done anything with it, and then I got a bit of a kick up the backside from one of my friends who said that I really, really should release it and let other people see it and hear it. And so I have finally released Blue Doors, which is a collection of songs that started whilst I was living in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn on Union Street, newly mothered, if that's the right word.
Why not?
Not being mothered, but yeah. So I suddenly had a child in my life, and then I moved to Paris, and so some of the songs were written in Paris, and then I moved to London. So it's not got any songs written in London, but it was finished in London.
And do you think because we had a bit more time that it pushed you out the door, so to speak, at this point?
I think so, yes. I mean, there's certainly been a certain amount of house cleaning that's happened with the COVID sort of mindset. And actually, that was something that when I was going back to work, and you were asking like whether I was going to be worried about going back to work, I suddenly thought about my will. I had to get my will in order, and I had to get my guardianship for Spencer in order, because I was thinking, well, if I do go to work and I do catch COVID and I do get really sick, I need to make sure my house is in order. And so, you know, I had one of those difficult conversations with the person who is identified as his guardian in the event of my death, just to make sure that, you know, that is still, you know, the right thing, and they're still willing to be that person, and you know, just making sure that the will is up to date and reflects all my wishes and decisions and things like that. So that was I would say maybe the sort of in your face kind of feeling. And then after that, there was the cleaning up of, you know, the numerous songs that I have all over the place that haven't been catalogued properly, and sorting out my taxes properly, and sorting out my, you know.
But you've been writing music basically since you were a teenager, haven't you? So
Yes, most consistently, you know, the past 30 years, yes.
yeah. So that's exciting. So people can have a look for Blue Doors and get a hold of it to hear. And you've got other music out as well, which isn't under that album. So if they just look for Amanda Thorpe at, where we sing, Spotify, Bandcamp.
Yeah, you can buy it on Bandcamp. You can listen to it on Spotify. You can download it from iTunes. I don't think it's on Amazon, but you know, I think it's pretty much distributed around the web. So you'll be able to find it if you put in my name. But there is another Amanda Thorpe who is also a musician. So just make sure
With an E or without an E?
with an E. With an E. I
That's
think
awful.
she's young and from Philadelphia or something, and she's like a belter. But anyway, no, you want this one.
This one, this Amanda Thorpe. Perfect. So I wanted to ask you, because obviously, like you said, we had to have some difficult discussions, like with the will. So do you have any worries about the future, having gone through the pandemic? Or do you now feel that you've dusted yourself, you've cleaned your house, so to speak, you're on the right path, and you are, you know, confident about the future?
You know, my house is a bit more in order. I think the worries that I have are more the long-term societal repercussions of what's happened. I think financially, huge burden. I think emotionally, huge burden. People have really struggled with it. I think children, I do believe in the resilience of children, and I do believe that even though they've not been in school, they are still learning sponges, and so they may have not learnt exactly what we think they should be learning in terms of schoolwork, but I hope that they're learning other things through the process of just being outside. And I think for the little ones particularly, just being at home's been absolutely amazing for them. They've had their parents home and really enjoyed that. I think we're going to have a long climbing out of it, and I also do think that the variations and the variants and the sort of chasing a new vaccine is going to be a real challenge, and whether or not that's the way we're going to have to live now, I don't think that that's a sustainable way to live.
No.
So it's we're going to have a ripple effect for a long time, I think.
And I think, what do you think you're going to do when we officially in England are going to be released from lockdown? I think that fully the restrictions are meant to were meant to be free in the middle of June, I think, or something like that. But what do you think? What's the first thing you're going to do?
I'd love to just have a bunch of friends around. As I said, I've been lucky enough to be able to see my parents. Maybe it would be a family get together. We'll all go up to Derbyshire.
I just got a vision. Everyone lined up for hugs. Right, yeah, hug. 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 Right, too long, moving on.
Lots of hugging, lots of talking.
That's your cheek. Yeah, so that will all be exciting. But I have one last question, which I think is a good one. So if you could talk to yourself now, at the beginning of this pandemic, is there anything that you would say to yourself?
Just make sure you have a routine. You have a routine and you go outside. Go outside. Take a walk. Breathe. It's life. It may not be a life that we are happy with. There's a lot of frustration about it, but this is life, and we've got to live the life that we have.
Yeah.
We don't have the World War II scenario. We don't have bombs flying out of the sky. But this is what we've got, and so we've got to find ways to make it work. And we've got to find things that are important to us and keep us grounded and connected.
So that's it for COVID tinted glasses this episode. Thank you, Amanda. So I should say this podcast is being recorded on Saturday, the 27th of March, but it'll be going out a bit later. But if you'd like to join me for a chat on COVID Tinted Glasses podcast, then get in touch on Georgina_podcast at outlook.com. And if you want to hear more of Amanda Thorpe's, the UK one, not the Connecticut or US one, then have a search on Spotify or Bandcamp. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much, Amanda. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So, music.
Oh yeah, I haven't worked out the music yet. Well, it'll be the same as at the beginning, basically. So what I'm going to do is call you because we'll lose contact. And then I can make sure that it will have recorded, but you know what I mean? Just
because it's live. It doesn't say it's recording, it says it's live.
Right, we're now going end.